Coming up on today's show, we're going to recap the latest on DeAndre Hopkins, what the buzz on the street is regarding his upcoming visit to Tennessee. Plus, we're going to look at some quotes from Vrabel and Treylon Burks, who talked about DeAndre Hopkins potentially signing with the team. So a pretty jam-packed show. Now let's jump into it with the latest on Hopkins. He's scheduled to fly to Nashville and visit the team on Sunday, according to Tom Pelissero. Now, earlier this week, he turned 31 years old, so he's definitely getting up there in the age column. Now, does Tennessee have the money to spend? Yes and no. They only have $8.3 million in cap space. They can always make some more cap space, whether it's restructuring a contract or moving on from a player or two, which I don't think DeAndre Hopkins is at the level where people have to have, their salaries cut because Hopkins wants to join the Titans. But I think a good framework for what a Hopkins contract could look like is what Hopkins pretty much himself has said he's looking for. The Odell Beckham Jr. contract. He signed a 1-year, $15 million contract. And I want you to look at that last line, right there. 2023 cap hit, $3.9 million. So right now, Tennessee has a hair over $8 million available in cap space. They don't need to have $15 million in cap space to make a deal get done, right? You can put a lot of the money in signing bonus. You can add void years on. There are ways to manipulate the cap. So don't look at $8 million. They can't afford Hopkins. He wants $15 million. It's only about the cap hit, which for OBJ in Baltimore wasn't even $4 million. So it could get done theoretically. Now, Vrabel did offer this on DeAndre Hopkins' upcoming visit. We really just want people that want to be here. And then if that works out, then you go on to the next step. So this will pretty much be it until we sign or don't sign the next player. I don't know what else you could have expected out of Vrabel. He has never been one to be very colorful when it comes to these types of moves. Like, he definitely does not shy away in post-game press conferences for, talking about what he saw and wearing his emotions on his sleeve. But no, he is not, as he put it, in college anymore. He is not doing a recruiting trip. They are likely not going to take Hopkins down to Broadway to convince him you want to live in Nashville. This is not some 5-star coming out of high school. They're going to show him the facility. They're going to talk about what they can do with Hopkins in their offense. And if it's a fit, great. If not, Braves is not going to lose a ton of sleep over. It is on to Cincinnati. It is on to the next game, on to the next player. That's just the way Mike Vrabel operates. Now, Hopkins, the last 4 seasons, you can see he has still been a very productive player. 19 games over the last 2 years. Suspension last year, as we all know by now, caused him to miss 6 games. An ankle injury the season prior caused him to miss a handful of games. But 11 touchdowns in 19 games. He is still a very effective player, and he would be this team's #1 wide receiver, no questions asked, in my opinion. So now I want to know from everyone watching if you think the Titans should go out and sign DeAndre Hopkins. I think it's kind of a no-brainer, right? If you're Tennessee, I don't see a reason why you would not be interested in signing DHop. If you're Hopkins, I can see some hesitancy there if he really wants to go to a contender and feels like there are teams closer to winning a Super Bowl than Tennessee, which you can't really blame him for that thought. But let me know what your thoughts are down below. Like I just said, though, the Titans should be very interested. We're going to look at this Titans wide receiver room here, and it's not the best. Like, it has some potential. If Treylon Burks lives up to the round 1 status, we're going to look back and go, there was a lot of panic and concern over nothing, right? Nick Westbrook-Ikhine is probably one of the more underappreciated wide receiver 2/3 in the NFL. Kyle Phillips, a 5th-round pick not long ago, we didn't see a ton of early on, but maybe he can step into a larger role. There's a lot of ifs and maybes. There's not a lot of whole proven talent, though, in this room, and we're going to look at that in closer detail in just a moment. But we have a sub-battle going on with our Ravens channel. So the way it works at Chat Sports, if you're unfamiliar, we have a boatload of channels covering different NFL teams, and it's pretty competitive here at Chat Sports. And we're trying to catch up to the next channel in subscribers, which is the Ravens Rundown. And they've got a 2,500 sub lead on us. Chipping away at it, baby. It's like betting the over, and it is 25-30 at the end of the second quarter. You've got some ways to go still in this NBA game, but hey, you never know. So help us beat the Ravens Rundown in subscribers by hitting that sub button down below. Now, like I was just mentioning earlier, this is not a receiver room that has a lot of unproven talent. Treylon Burks, who was off and on his rookie year with injuries popping up and did not get off to a great start in terms of minicamp and OTAs, 33 grabs, 444 yards. I want to reiterate, these are not 2022 stats. There is no receiver on this Titans roster who has more than 1,000 yards in his entire career. It's just that thin and young of a room. So maybe the young guys will rise to the occasion, but if they don't, it's going to be an oh shit moment in Nashville. I can guarantee you that, right? I think this is the worst wide receiver unit in the NFL. Not trying to be mean, calling it how I see it right now. I don't know if I can find another wide receiver unit out there that is more unproven than the Tennessee Titans. So for that reason, Tennessee should be all over DeAndre Hopkins. Now, Treylon Burks was also asked about DHop coming down to Nashville, visiting the team, and his answers were, I don't know if they were misconstrued, but people have made headlines out of them, and I kind of want to address that on today's show. So let's start with this quote here. When he was asked about the team potentially signing Hopkins, he said, "That's something that I can't control. He's an awesome player, great player. Would be fun to play with him. So if we ended up getting him, we get him. If we don't, we don't. No offense to him. He's a great player, but I like playing with who we have here." So I think Treylon Burks just wants to be a wide receiver one. And he knows if they sign DeAndre Hopkins, everyone is moving down the depth chart a little bit, including Burks himself. And I can't really fault him for being a competitive dude and going, I like the wide receiver unit we have here. I like what we're building here. We all practice together, team camaraderie. That's good to see. Is DeAndre Hopkins better than Nick Westbrook-Ikhine? Absolutely. So is this team better with DHop than without? I would say yes, but I'm not going to get super upset with Treylon Burks standing by his teammates and believing in himself to be this team's future DeAndre Hopkins, right? To be the star wide receiver like DHop has been for Houston and Arizona in his career. Now, we're going to look at one more quote in just a moment, but today's sponsor, BetUS, they've got the best deal out there for Titans fans. Go to chatsports.com/bet. Use promo code CHAT125, and when you do, you can get a 125% deposit bonus. Now, the NBA Finals are underway right now, and the MVP odds are out. And no surprise, Nikola Jokic is a huge favorite. The reason why I'm mentioning this is if you believe the Heat are going to come back and win this series, well, then that means Jimmy Butler probably took over. And if Jimmy Butler does take over and the Heat do come back to win, plus 750 odds, that is incredible value if you believe the Heat are coming back. You put $10 down, you're winning 75. So if you want to ride with the Heat and you're a believer in Butler, pretty good value if you ask me when you go to chatsports.com/bet, promo code CHAT125. Now, more from Treylon Burks when he was asked about learning from DeAndre Hopkins. 100%. He would be a great mentor. You know, I've watched D-Hop since I was younger, one of my favorite players. He carries himself the right way, and his game on the field speaks for itself. I've seen a lot of headlines out there from Mike Florio at Pro Football Talks to some Titans beat boys and whatnot. This is not a big story. This is not something that people should be looking at here and going, Treylon Burks doesn't want DeAndre Hopkins. He's so selfish. He's putting himself in front of the team. No, the guy's just believing in himself, and he's believing in his teammates. And he said himself, DeAndre Hopkins is a great guy. So don't look at a sentence when a second-year player is speaking to the media, and I don't know if he misspoke or maybe he didn't deliver the words he would have liked, but I interpreted it more as Burks believes in himself, he believes in this team, and he believes in the wide receiver room that he is a part of, and he's not going to be advocating for DeAndre Hopkins to come here and steal one of his buddies' jobs. Even though Hopkins would improve this wide receiver room, Burks doesn't need to say that out loud. Now, before we get on out of here, speaking of Treylon Burks, over or under 1,000 yards for the second-year player out of Arkansas? I'm going to go with under. Now, if you disagree, rip me a new one in the comment section. I don't give a shit. Pencil me in, though, for 800 yards and 4 touchdowns. I just don't see this offense being super pass-happy to get Treylon Burks the targets and receptions he needs to get over 1,000 yards. So I'm going to go on the underside with 804 TDs. Give me your predictions down in the comment section. That's going to do it for us on today's show. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, taking time out of your day. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll see everyone later.